Okay, Drew, you should be seeing audio come through on that right now. Are you? Yep. Okay, that looks good.
All right, everybody, if you could all simmer down, get this started. All right, first of all, thank you all so much for coming out and voicing your opinions and wanting to learn about what this task force is about and being part of this community. So thank you. Deborah. Secondly, there's some snacks, some cookies, and some water over there on the side. If you get a little hungry, you want something to eat, grab some. Want to thank and recognize some of the elected officials that are in attendance right now. We got Thurston County Sheriff John Stazza up here. Wave. Thank you for being here. Councilmember E.J. Curry, I think I saw her. Councilmember Tracy Wood. And am I missing anyone else? Well, thank you for the electeds that are being here. Want to introduce the members here of this task force, starting with myself and Councilmember. I'm Joe DePeno on the Yelm City Council, and then Molly Carmody on the Yelm City Council as well. Then we got Stacy Fields of the Yelm Police in the end. Kathy Frazier, who's with Addiction and Mental Health Specialist. Deb Larson is a nonprofit teacher. Rachel Craig, she's this resident here and also deals with social work, specialized in social work. Susie LaFergie, and she's a homelessness advocate. So this is the task force. Would you mind giving them a hand real fast for all the work they've done so far? Thank you. So tonight, what we're going to go over, I'll stand up. What we're going to go over is the different possible proposals. Now, none of this is set in stone, so feedback from the community, such as yourselves, is very much appreciated. And what will happen is at the end of this, we're going to go into, besides the introductions, we'll go into different options, which if you have an agenda, you can kind of see what all the different options are. And again, nothing is set in stone. Nothing is actually being voted on tonight. You're going to get about a month or so to look at it and give us feedback. And then after that month, the task force will come up and actually vote on a proposal that we'll recommend to the full city council. And at that point, the city council can decide whether to adopt the measures or the resolution, or excuse me, not the resolution, but the proposal from the Homelessness Task Force, or they can go ahead and do nothing. They can pick a little bit of it. They want to do this, they can do that. But what we're doing up here is just a proposal for the city council. So nothing is set in stone. Your voice is very important in this process, so thank you so much for being here. It's standing room only. Oh, and we got Terry Kaminsky as well, Yelm City Council, just arrived. Thank you. So let me just tell you a few items on the agenda, or the resolution that was passed by the City Council and some of the key points of this task force. First being a comprehensive list of all the services and programs that are currently available for Yelm by federal, state, and local governments in this area. So DSHS, we're talking about churches, we're talking about nonprofits, if they offer food like dinners, stuff like that. We create a comprehensive list which we'll be providing to the council with our final report. Next is also with that is existing analysis of the existing services, focusing on overlaps and gaps in service. Review of our neighboring municipalities' code language and ordinances, so we're not reinventing the wheel. If we can use some of their ordinances and their strategies, we will as well. Analysis of the Thurston Homeless Housing Task Force and its 5-year homeless housing plan. And lastly, the two major parts of this is the recommendations on how to close current service gaps and reduce service overlaps, and recommendations for the city on how to coordinate or create services, programs, and facilities for the homeless community. The Yelm City Council appropriated $2,500 for this task force. We have been very wise and tight with that budget and have not spent a penny of that. And with that, I am going to hand it off to Councilmember Molly Carmody, who's going to go over the different options briefly, and then we'll hand it off for everyone to go ahead and discuss and give your opinion on it.
Hi guys, I'm Molly Carmody. So this all started, it was at least a year and a half ago when I started noticing on public postings and Facebook and other places around the internet that people want something done. People say, do something with this homeless crisis, do something with, you know, the garbage or the, you know, the refuse, whatever, do something. And so we started this task force to look at the options that we could look at. You know, what are the options that City Council could possibly take? Anywhere from doing nothing to, you know, creating an extensive sort of safety net is the word that I'm looking for. And none of these, like Joe said, none of these options have been decided on. We're just looking at different options and seeing what's best for Yelm. So when the task force comes up and decides, you know, like, hey, maybe we should recommend to council that the council should do this, council will then have to vote on that. And like Joe said, they're only gonna, you know, they could pick it apart, we could pick it apart, but Joe and I are only 2 members of the city council, and right now, I don't have any particular opinions. I know that Joe doesn't really have any particular opinions about what should and shouldn't be done. I heard some rumor that, you know, we were going to try and create Yelm as a sanctuary city for the homeless. I don't know where that rumor came from. I can squash it right now, okay? We're not going to do that because I don't think that's an appropriate place for Yelm. It just, we can't afford it, period. Okay, so squash that rumor, okay? So, but we do have a lot of different options to consider. The first one, obviously, is do nothing. Just let things go as the way they are. Now, I don't know a lot of people that would be happy with this because a lot of people are saying, no, we need to do something. We cannot just let it continue the way that it is. Whether or not it's through a need to protect our families, or a need to protect our environment, or a need to protect the citizens that deserve care as long as everybody else does. So that's the first recommendation, is doing nothing. The second one would be to increase partnerships. This is for the city to act on, right? Increase partnerships for bus passes and tickets to cities that have established programs. We could work on increasing partnerships with current nonprofits in Yelm that already provide these services. So, you know, like a coordination effort. Provide informational handouts to the homeless people here, saying here are the services that are available. We could use municipal property for a mediation site like Olympia does, you know, with a little tent city, or, right. Okay. See, but you guys, what I'm saying, these are just options, right? I know. Okay. So, like I said, these are all just options, and we know that, you know, it's fair, I think, don't you, to make all the options heard and available. We can't just eliminate them because somebody might not like it. We have to make it available to examine. Okay. Let me continue here, guys, and we will collect information from you guys. You guys have, you know, a long time tonight to come and, you know, say your thoughts. Okay, you know, along that same line, construct our own low-income housing. Or we could do things like provide tax incentives or impact fee reductions to people who build low-income housing. That would be kind of along a different way. We could kind of do something minimal, provide garbage bins and portable bathrooms at the campsites that are there. You know, that would help clean up the refuse. We could expand hours for the hazardous weather periods and move the location to the community center, because right now it's across the street at the public safety building. We could host a monthly homeless or low-income clinic here at the community center that would have outreach coordinators here for people to come talk to. Those coordinators would be like from DSHS, from Thurston County. There may be a doctor there. There may be a drug addiction assistance there, legal aid. I don't know if you guys know this, but the homeless face like at least 9 legal problems right now per person. It's a lot. We could hire a part-time ombudsman for the city that could help to write grants for, you know, collecting money for the homeless, or, you know, and that ombudsman could help to coordinate services with all of the nonprofits. We could provide laundry vouchers to laundromats. We could contract with a mobile shower. You guys ever heard those bus showers where you can have you can have a shower and do your laundry? We could contract with one of those guys. We could increase the law enforcement of nuisance laws. Okay, I don't know. So just so you know, we've had a lot of emails, Joe and I have had a lot of emails from a lot of you. And there were so many that we couldn't respond to all of them individually, but we did get them, you guys. One of the things that a lot of the people have said is we want these nuisance laws enforced. But at the same time, we don't want you to spend any money on the situation. So those two don't really go together. You've got to pay somebody to enforce the laws, and that means more police officers and more time. So that's more money. So just to put that in your hat and think on it, okay? Let's see. We could provide a needle exchange. We could put a non-specific budget line item for quote homelessness. This was just a suggestion for $10,000 in the budget. We could acquire rental houses for homeless transitioning. We could establish apprenticeship programs to the homeless for training to get them back into jobs, et cetera, like that, for like public works. Or we could sort of do the Albuquerque model. I don't know if you guys have seen that, where Albuquerque actually hires homeless people for day jobs to help clean up and then gives them a little bit of money at the end of the day. So these are all just a bunch of options that we have to look at and we as a group need to think about, and what's best for Yelm. It's not necessarily what we want or what Rachel wants or what Deb wants or what Joe or I or anybody here wants. It's a group's decision. And the group decision is going to depend a lot on what you guys say tonight. So we're here to listen to you guys tonight, okay?
So at this point, we're going to open up for question and answers or comments. So if you want to line up, if you want to go ahead and say your piece, go ahead and line up on that side here. Go ahead and speak into the microphone so folks can hear you. We're going to try to limit it now because there's so many people, and depending on how many want to speak, to about probably less than 3 minutes. So you can just make a comment. You can make a comment on one of these items on the agenda. Hopefully it is one of these, whether you support it or don't support it. You can be as quick as, we don't want anything, we want everything. You can direct it to something, to a certain person on here. But try to be respectful, and let's hear what you have to say. Thank you.
We're good? Yeah. So the question for you was, how bad is the homeless problem? How big is the homeless problem? I see occasionally people here and there, but I don't see a great flock of homeless people like I see in Seattle and Tacoma and Olympia. I don't see anything near that here.
That's my question back to you. In comparison to what?
We work in the major cities. My company works in the major cities all the time. And the homeless problem up in Seattle particularly is tremendous. You know, there's a big thing was written in Seattle. Seattle is dying, and it's because of stuff like that. And I want to make sure that that doesn't happen here. And so before I can make any judgments on anything.
Thank you for your question. I don't have a current accurate count on exactly how many. And the definition of homeless is very subjective in nature. Homeless cannot just be the people that you see in a tent on the side of the road. Homeless can be people that are transitioning from friend to friend to couch. So there are many ways to define the definition of homeless. I think the ones you're particularly referring to are the transient population that perhaps is living under trees and in tents. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I would say we do our best with the City of Yelm to try to transition them into the services that our county does offer. Most are in the Olympia area, and make sure that they do have the option, and we help them any way we can. There is not a lot as you would compare to Olympia or Seattle. I don't have an exact count for you though, sir.
Is this just a Yelm problem?
Pardon me?
Is this just a Yelm? Are we just addressing the problem in Yelm?
Yes.
Or are we addressing Thurston County as well?
I can only address the problems in Yelm.
Okay. I am.
Thank you.
Next.
My name is Stephanie Kimball. I'm not in the city limits, but my family has lived in this community for over 40 years. And I've grown up in it from a little wee babe, and now my children are and have. I guess watching so much, to me it doesn't seem that we have an absolute homeless problem. We do have some, as so does every other community. Our problem seems to be drug addictions. My father, who is over 90 years old, and I this last winter went out and handed out wool blankets to a lot of the handlers and what my dad thought of as homeless people in our community, because he has a very soft spot for it. And though this is his personal information, but as my dad growing up through a lot of the depression and hardships, there was a time he was homeless. But homeless people then, you went to work, even if it was for the railroad, so that you had a bed to sleep in and 2 meals a day. And that is where and what has made him who he is to this day. So we went around and handed out wool blankets to a lot of these people. How many of them are actually homeless? Not very many. How many of them choose that life? 90% of them that we came across. So I guess for me, I love this community in this town. And when you talk about citizens, we need to do something to help these citizens. How many of these people are actual citizens of our town? I mean, realistically, most of them are from everywhere else. So do we want to take care of our own? Yes. Do we want to be compassionate and give people a warm blanket? Yes. But are we just going to build something to invite more from other communities and other areas to cause us more problems? Yes. You know, Thurston County has all these services that are brought up and are listed on there on a website, and they're available for any person to go into and get the help that's listed here from what I understand. So I guess my question is, how really is this going to improve? How really is it going to improve? Because most of the homeless people that I know of in this community, they're bashful. They're shy. They're not out there, begging for anything. They're trying to make a job. They're too proud to even usually ask for much help. It's the ones that choose that life, and we're enabling them. I mean, we're adding to it by saying, oh, here, you chose this life. What can we do for you? How many of those people has anybody went to and asked to, hey, you know what? You want to get clean? You want help? Would you like to work? I can tell you I'm a farmer.
Hi.
There aren't
Sorry.
very many of them that actually want a job if you offered them a job.
Okay, sorry, we got time there.
So that's my take on it, and I guess that's my question to you guys. How is this truly going to improve that situation?
Well, that's exactly why we're here.
Hi, my name is Janice. So echoing the first two, I didn't know we had a problem, other than a few people wandering around. And I wouldn't want to create a problem by announcing we have all these services out here and welcome people from Seattle, like that rumor about the busing of people down here. That would create more of a problem. So I guess my question or my concern would be, how would we measure any success in any programs that we do create? How would you measure that, and how would you say, okay, this is not working, let's scratch this, or let's limit this, or the funds you put towards something? So yeah, how accountability from helping people, and then how to know that it's working.
My name's Helen Griffin. I just wanted to make sure people were aware of these statistics. The National Alliance on Mental Illness has told us that 20% of homeless individuals in the U.S. experience not just mental illness, but serious mental illness. When you are seriously mentally ill, it is very hard to hold down a job on a routine, regular basis, especially a job that pays sufficient in today's world for transportation to the job, for food, for lodging, and for any other needs that person has. 1 in 25 U.S. adults experiences serious mental illness each year. That's 11.4 million people. 1 in 5 people experiences mental illness. That is just having problems, not having serious mental problems. That's 1 in 5. That still interferes with jobs. The average delay between onset of mental illness symptoms and treatment is 11 years. At least 8.4 million people in the U.S. provide care to an adult with a mental or emotional health issue with an average of 32 unpaid care hours per week. Mood disorders are the most common cause of hospitalization for all people in the United States under the age of 45. Serious mental illness causes $193.2 billion of lost earnings in the U.S. per year. Depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. So I would just like to ask the council, please consider improving mental health resources in our community.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? I've spent the past 2 weeks down in Centralia and Chehalis. When I was there 6 months ago, they had terrible homeless problem there. And when I went back to talk to these people over the past 2 weeks, there was no homeless, nowhere. So I asked them what they did. And the first thing they did was outlaw panhandling. Then Then they put no camping signs. And they do ticket you, and they do take you in. And then if your vehicle doesn't run, it is towed immediately. Now, what they also did was they had a church there that served 2 meals a day for the homeless. And they also opened up the Centralia Fairgrounds for showers once a month. And they had like Goodwill and the thrift stores around bring clothes and shoes so these people could change and feel good about themselves. Now here in Yelm, I was thinking we could open up the high school on Sundays if it gets really bad, once a month, and have them bathe there. This place could be a refuge in bad weather if we get that bad. We have many food banks around here. If we could put all that food towards the one church that's going to serve the food, I mean, it could work if it gets that bad for us. Or the Elks Foundation, that type of thing. They also have a mental health professional and DSHS available. These people, like you were saying, a lot of them are addicts. And some of them will just go in for 3 days, but a 10-day program is offered to them to try to help them get on their feet. But that's how they took care of the homeless there. And they told me they have their own homeless in the town. But it was nothing like what I saw before they did this. So that's my suggestion.
Hi, my name is Adriana Dondero. I ask all of you, how long have you lived in this community? I have lived in this community for 30 years, and I'm now raising 3 children. I live on Crystal Springs, and there are homeless living under the bridge. I have called police. There are now feces and needles floating down the creek in my backyard. My 12-year-old daughter feels the need to carry mace to walk in this area. So my question is, who's cleaning this up? I will pay all of my community dollars to have them removed and taken out and laws put in place to not have homeless in our community. We do not need them. There's plenty of other places for them. That's really my question. I don't want to pay to clean up after them. It is not necessary. They are a menace to society. They are humans who could make a choice to go and do something about their lives, and they are choosing not to. They are choosing to take drugs and be a menace. It's like the zombie apocalypse. And if you remember in the 1990s and 80s here, we had a huge meth crisis in the Yelm city. And if we continue to allow them to be here, it's already apparent on Crystal Springs Road, where I live with my children, it's overwhelmingly meth, amphetamines, and drugs. I watch teenagers go under the bridge and do them and pop out all the time. And I have contacted the police, and they said nothing they can do. So who's going to clean up?
Ma'am, if you want to stay after, I also live on Crystal Springs. I'd love to chat with you about where it's at, and we can get someone on that right away.
And there is also the, what is the little daycare down there? I mean, it's literally within 100 feet of that bridge where this is happening. It's frankly disgusting.
I'd first like to qualify myself. I am a homeowner in Tahoma Terra. Okay, so we're right by the high school. I'd also like to say I spent 15 years in Philadelphia as a social worker. Okay, I spent 4 years in a dual diagnosis unit treating people who had mental health and addiction problems. Yelm is not equipped to do that. You are not able to, what you will do, you'll hurt the population you're trying to help, because you don't have the resources. You're going to hurt the homeowners who live here. So I heard 2 great suggestions: more police and having bus passes to get them where the resources are. The ability for people. I had, on my caseload, I had a woman who I had to tell, and she was from Nigeria. I had to tell her, you're either going to go to work or you're going to go to school, or we're not paying your rent. It was the most precious thing I could have ever said to her. Her mother called me from Africa and said, how dare you speak to my daughter? To date, this woman still calls me on Mother's Day because she went to school, because she heard no, because she was given the opportunity. If she said no, she had to go. So if we give opportunity and we don't coddle, we can save lives. If we do anything else, we're going to kill people. Because Philadelphia has 3 emergency rooms in a stretch of 2 miles because of all the ODs, okay? I've had so many people die on my caseload, and of no reflection of me. You know, they went out, I thought they were doing well, And all of a sudden, people gave them too much room with not enough structure. And you know, you go and you give the services. You make sure. Thurston County, I'm sure, has a boatload of services. I've been here 7 years, you know, and I have yet to see an extensive mental health program here. But even if you bring it here, you're not going to have the other resources to couple it with. So do the homeless a favor, get them the help they need. You know, they're people too. But we can't and are not equipped. We can't even have enough police officers to date to help them. Seriously. I mean, I fear. My kids walk to school every day. You know, what one day if they come home, Mom, you know, I'm dreading that statement coming out of their mouth. And I moved to Yelm so I didn't have to hear that. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew McClellan. I'm running for city council, but I'm also a financial advisor. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the hidden costs of some of the things that we're talking about. I like to akin it to your 401k, where if there's a crash happening and you don't open that statement, are you still not losing money? The reason that I bring this up is because if we make panhandling illegal, I want to run you through a scenario that our officers are going to have to go through relatively consistently. They're going to what? Find them that they're not going to pay, or they're going to put them in jail. And who bears the cost of those people being in our local jails? You do. So what's important to me is that the people who need to get jobs, the ones who want to find themselves employment, we give them every resource that we can to get them back on their feet. Whether that means working for the city in some capacity or finding a way to get them to WorkSource, which is all the way on West Side Olympia, and it's really hard to get there if you're particularly homeless. So finding a way to help these people get employment if they want employment and need back on their feet, we need to do that. But number two, let's make sure that our citizens don't bear the entire cost of these people who are doing drugs in our backyard. That's the most important thing to me.
Hi, my name is Thomas Camacho. Moved here a few years ago. One of the biggest problems with drug users is you don't enable them. Enabling them does nothing but make it worse. The officers that are in this room are the ones that are first line to deal with these people. Yes, they're people, but they're making choices at the same time. It is nobody's responsibility in here to cover them. We're all our own people. My question is, for the officers, what do you need to help stop this problem?
Thank you for your question. There's so many answers to that question. Our staffing has increased quite a bit. We're doing really well on staffing. Cooperation through the legal standpoint would be appreciated if it was a little bit more enhanced.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Pardon me?
What do you mean by the complexity of it?
Oh, thank you, Molly. There are other alternatives that I'm sure that the elected officials in this state could explore that have been successful in other states. I am not a politician. However, I have done the research, and I just think that there's more options that we should look into that would be better for everybody. Feel free to do your research online.
I understand the complexity of the problem. I've seen it firsthand from soldiers that I've worked with.
I'm sorry, again?
I understand the complexity of the problem. I've worked firsthand with fellow soldiers that have gone down that road.
Thank you for your service.
And the biggest thing, thank you for your support. The biggest thing that I saw, though, was persistence. Persistence from the people, but not enabling them. Tacoma, Olympia, these towns have enabled them, and it shows. The towns are rotting from the inner cities, and it's being seen. How do we prevent that? by not enabling them. I have a 2-year-old daughter. I have a wife. I have a family. Everybody in here has a family. We don't want to put people in harm's way.
Agreed.
Mr. Garza couldn't be here. He wanted me to make a statement. I'm going to censor it a little bit. He says he apologizes. He's not even home from work yet at the time. He'd like his tax money to go towards paying for more law enforcement than homeless services. Seattle, Tacoma, and Olympia have all gone down, catering to the homeless. They're notified of the services available to them constantly and are more than aware of them. It's only a matter of time before homes and vehicles start getting broken into or they start posing a threat to residents. Furthermore, I think this is the most critical part of it all. What message does allowing them to remain as they pose to kids? I'm not much older considering I'm only 23, but what example does it show to the youth when they see homeless being allowed to stay as they are? That it's okay not to strive to achieve more, that it's okay to expect everything to be handed to us or that everyone else will cater to us. A lot of residents have moved here to retire in peace, away from the problems faced in the big cities. A lot have moved here just to have a more quiet everyday life. I'm not saying look down on the homeless. They are people after all. But why should our tax dollars go towards picking up after and feeding a tiny minority that is more than capable of working, but choose not to? Why should the rest of us essentially be held responsible financially for them when they are not contributing to our society? If people want to contribute to them, they are non-government agencies that don't run off our tax dollars. They can contribute to in order to provide aid. Our tax dollars should be going back to our community. That's the entire purpose behind it. Thanks for listening to my rant. A caveat to Mr. Garza's message, I've had to chase people off my property for the exact reason. My neighbor has had his merchandise stolen by people that use drugs. I personally have seen the meth labs out in the outskirts of the town. I know.
Sorry, sir. You're over your time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
We want to help, and I appreciate the time.
I can see it from both sides because I have somebody who lives next door to me who's squatty. And they're living in a rundown house, and they fight with their significant other, and there's drugs going on. Down the street from me, there's a meth house, and you can see the people coming up on their bicycles, and you're like, please don't drive away after you've taken it because you're really going to run into somebody. So I can see that. I can see that, our schools can't afford lunches. We're $23,000 in debt, right? For school lunches? What? Yeah, so I can understand how I'm a homeowner. I'm like, where are my tax dollars going? On the same flip side, though, I can also see that we're already paying for the homeless population. We're already paying for people to come clean the shit and the needles and everything else. We have CMAR mental health services. What gets me is that I am blessed. I am blessed because I am mentally disabled. I used to make 6 figures, and I lost everything. The world just bottomed out on me one day. But my husband could still work. But I had to move from King County, which is pretty successful. You have to make a lot of money to live there. I'm paid $3,000 a month in rent. But I moved to Yelm because I couldn't even afford to live in Tacoma. You guys, it's coming. It may not be bad now, but the homeless people in Seattle are being pushed down. Renton's not nice anymore. Neither is Kent, and neither is Des Moines, and you go on down the line. You go to Federal Way, and you think, oh my gosh, am I in the slums? And that used to be the suburbs, guys. Exactly. So they're coming to us, so whether we like it or not, we have to do something. So instead of complaining about we don't want our taxes paying for this, how about the people who do want to work? Because, you know, there's days I was sitting in my bed in my pajamas, and I saw a Facebook post talking about how dare people want to come and take over and do things with my thing. You know, you people, all, me included, I am a Christian, but I don't want those people living next to me. I don't want the drugs. I want to know that my kids are being fed in school. But yet, no, I don't want, what are we going to do? Instead of coming and yelling at people and making bad jokes and stuff. And you know what? Yes, they can work. But you know, getting out of bed every day, I have PTSD from being just, I won't even go there. But you know, it has to be pretty fucking bad for Social Security to say, that girl's not supposed to work. Okay? So we have to do something instead of griping at each other. It's coming. The recession, they're talking about it on the television. It's coming, guys.
That's time, ma'am. Thank you. And for the future speakers, please do not use profanity. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to ask, oh, okay. Can you hear me now? All right. I'm one of, everybody seems to have answered or stated my concerns. And one of the things I would like to know is, you have done your research and your studies, right? You know, about this homeless situation. Is it possible for us to have a look at that, what you have written? Because we can basically see what you have found.
Yeah, I believe we can compile that, and
Okay.
it'll be in a final report. But I think we can cite sources and provide research. Yeah.
Right. We all are aware that homelessness in the United States had become a multi-billion-dollar industry. That is a fact. I don't have the actual statistics, details, but it is. So I'm one of those people who retired in Yelm 25 years ago. We had one street light, and all of a sudden one day it became a big city, okay? This building, I am told, cost over how many $1 million to build. And if this homelessness have been a problem for a long time, why did we even bother building this building? We could have already solved the problem. And the other thing that I would like to know is, all of these homeless, I'm told it's about 30 of them in this community right now. Do you have names for them and their actual origin, where they came from? Because we want to know that, okay? Because here we are, people who are working.
We couldn't give out names. That would be an invasion of privacy.
Okay, no problem. But we want to know if they are actual citizens of Yelm, or are they just who came here and settled here under the tents and all that. So we want to know that too. The other thing I want to know is, oh, sorry.
You wanted to know some numbers of homeless?
Yes.
In January of each year, in January, the Thurston County, actually the Housing Authority will be taking that over, but it was the city of Olympia in previous years who have taken a point-in-time census. It's a national census on one day in January. I have some figures about the homelessness in Yelm that was collected this past January. Would you like those?
Okay.
Okay. We counted about 35 people, but they threw out a few. The PIT census does not count people who are couch surfing, so a few of them got in there. So we're going to take our number to 32. I will preface that with the work that the Link Churches has been doing in Yelm, and they have some men who go out to the camps, and they tell me that they can count about 50 people. So let's go with the 32 right now that I know of from January. The places that these 32 were last housed, 20 of them were from Yelm, 3 were from Olympia, 7 were local area towns, Roy and Rainier, and 2 were from out of state, those that were counted on January 24th, 2019. 4 of the 30 had been homeless less than a year. I know a lot of names in my head because I personally respond and work with these people on a weekly basis. And we have one person who I can verifiably say has been homeless for 10 years in Yelm. 23 of the 32 were males, 8 were females, 5 of the 32 were veterans, 13 of the 30 told us they were physically disabled, 12 of the 30 told us they were mentally disabled, and 4 of the 30 told us they used substances and there were addiction issues. The cause of homelessness for these 32 people, 20 of the 30 reported a recent eviction. 17 of the 30 reported job loss. There was somewhat of an overlap between the job loss and the eviction. It seems like one would reasonably follow the other. And 16 of the 32 had health issues, and 6 of the 30 felt like they were homeless because of family conflict. And remember that 20 of the 32 were hometown people. Okay. We did not count any children that day. I know that there is one child that is homeless right now in Yelm. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I hope that helped
you. Oh, yes, thank you very much. And I'm sure they wanted to know that too. And I hope you didn't count that on my. Thank you. I'm very. Yeah. So, say we put together the homeless program, right? You know, say we have 50 of them. Hey, and you're going to rehabilitate them and make sure that they're not doing drugs, at least, no crimes, no nothing. That's 50 people. That's bearable. But how are you going to ascertain this community that number is not going to increase? Because that's what happened to Seattle and all the major cities in the Pacific Northwest and West Coast. Their numbers increased uncontrollably. How do you control the homelessness in Yelm? Is what I want to know. I'm sure you have that in your studies.
How we control the homeless? Is that
yes.
Well, I don't think that was what we're supposed to be looking at is how to control the homeless, but we're looking at, as part of the resolution, as I mentioned earlier, creating a comprehensive list of all the services that are available here in Yelm and the surrounding areas, analysis of the other task forces in the region, recommendations how to close current service gaps and reduce service overlaps, and recommendations on the city to how to coordinate and create services, programs, or facilities for the homeless program. But Molly would like to add something.
Yeah, I just want to add that I don't think that we can eliminate homelessness. I don't think that we can stop homelessness. The fact is that 60% of Americans don't even have $1,000 in the bank. And that means that 60% of Americans are literally one paycheck away from being evicted. That is not the scope of this task force. I mean, that's a huge societal issue that we just can't address here in our little 7-person task force, but I think it's a larger issue that we should all keep in the back of our minds.
Okay, so the last point I would like to make is this something that you just sort of arbitrarily put together without the consent of the people? Is this something that is just going to happen arbitrarily without
No, ma'am.
the
This was
consent of everybody?
The Homeless Task Force was voted on by City Council. It was created by City Council last November. The Nisqually Valley News wrote an article about it. We put out, a call for volunteers for the task force, and we really didn't get a whole lot of volunteers. So no, this has been going on since last November.
Okay, yeah, because I kind of I'm one of those retired people outside of Yelm, and today I just opened my email and there was this big thing about the meeting today, and I said, okay, it actually is in my neighborhood, the homelessness, and what is going to be happening here. And all I'm saying is, we wouldn't want the whole entire community, city of Yelm to just be not so much of I don't believe in sanctuary cities,
No sanctuary cities.
No,
that's
no,
not.
I understand. I do apologize. I
Sure.
even use that. But if we are getting funding from the state and federal, and you've been getting this for a long time.
Final thoughts, ma'am.
Huh?
Final thoughts, ma'am. Your time's been up.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to say something? Thank you, ma'am.
I just wanted to address your question about how do we fix this homelessness and avoid having it. The county has a very detailed plan that they put together, and I was at a meeting Monday that they presented the plan, and it goes into great detail on how they're going to address it and how the different organizations are going to work together. Now, that doesn't mean it's all going to go away. I could fix it if I could wave a magic wand and create a bunch of low-cost housing. That would fix it. If they have houses, they're not homeless.
All right. Thank you very much. Next person, please.
Hi. I just have a short comment. First of all, I love Yelm. My family loves Yelm very much. Clap for Yelm. We moved to Yelm about a year and a half ago, and I was working remotely. I was working from home, and so we chose Yelm. It wasn't. It was by choice because our values aligned with Yelm's values, and I have small children that we are excited that they know the librarians. The librarians know their names. We go there. It's become a place for my family. It's like a community center there for us. We love this town. We really love this town. The thing that I would want to share as representative of, I'm sure, other parents, it's the big appeal was my kids could ride their bikes to town when they're a little older. They could go to the donut shop. They could. We live in Tomatera, and so right now we don't feel safe that they would ride their bikes past some of the, because we can't see them. We don't know who's under the bridge activity. I know it's been constantly being taken care of, and we appreciate that. But that's my concern. I worked in nonprofit for about 12 years, and I know there's a lot of unintended consequences with great work, and I know that that's not what I'm trying to talk about today. I value the task force, and I know that's probably on your minds in conversations. But I will say to the comment about, I think you said staffing for more police. We pay in the summertime almost $300 to water our grass, so we'll gladly do that. We'll gladly divert our money. Maybe put a rock garden in the back or something. I don't know, but we definitely believe in this town, and we love this town, and we want to support our police and support our community. And I know that that's my own worldview opinion, and I appreciate the effort. So, thank you.
Hello, my name is Brenda Serreris, and I have lived in Yelm since 1990 when there was one stoplight in Yelm. And I think it's a good time to, at this point, to redefine what homeless is. We have, what, did you say 32 people or 36? Well, but, hello? Okay, I wanted to redefine what homelessness is, or just discuss it, because you have the homeless people who have bad luck and they get out of they lose their job, they lose their place to live, and those people you can help. So then you need a plan for those people and what you can send them to. But then you do have, where I live, I watch homeless, there's kids that are homeless, and it's like, well, why aren't they at home with their families? Well, their families want them to get off the drugs. They're not welcome back until they're off the drugs. So where do they go? Well, I live in the Nisqually Pines, and I know it's everywhere. Meth is everywhere, heroin, whatever the drugs are. But what they're doing is you've got like grandparents and the child that didn't quite make it. Maybe they have a disability. As soon as those parents die, then that becomes the house all the homeless people go to. And then they get kicked out. If the parents own the house, then the mortgage isn't getting paid, then it goes up to auction, it gets foreclosed, and then they jump from place to place. The tent city that was in the Pines, they just moved into somebody else's house that lost their parents. And then when that house got kicked out, I followed a son and a dad around for 5.5 months, because not even any of their drug friends would help them. And the father is a master craftsman, but I don't doubt whatever he might partake in, and that they all might, if you're clean for a bit, they all might get each other hooked right back in a heartbeat. But I followed them around and gave them gas, and our churches are amazing. You can pretty much have dinner at every day of the week at a different church. So if that's the kind of information you can collect and hand out to people that are homeless, but I don't know if they'd even do that, if they'd go to that, even though it's available. But there are things, but to delineate between the people who would go back to work, that's one set of people. The other people who are on drugs, what those guys ended up doing is the family services in Olympia, because there's a kid, found them a home. But then what happens? All the other ones come into their house to have a shower, and then they run the risk of losing their home all over again. So I've had my truck stolen, I've had my back building broken into and lawnmower, and my dad's lifetime of tools stolen. I have cameras now. The other day I had ex-military that's turned meth show up on a beautiful yellow bicycle, and so I took it to the office in the Pines, and it's her neighbor, and she was the one who told me everything about him. And that's a whole nother house, just 5 houses that way.
Final thoughts, ma'am.
Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my family and I have recently moved here. We chose to move here. Parkland is where we came from, lots of homeless there. We've seen the problems, we see it every day. We chose to come here so we wouldn't have to deal with those kinds of problems. The unregistered sex offenders, crime, the increased visibility that we're seeing with tents or people sleeping next to Goodwill, those are things that we're seeing now every day. My son walks to school every day, and as school has started up, now I have the fear again of, will my son make it to school safely? That's a problem for me. I know it is for most parents here. None of us want to see our kids in danger. We don't want to see our families in danger, and that's an issue. We want to make sure that our safety is number one. Yes, we want to care for people, obviously. I mean, people are of utmost concern here. However, we need to be able to take care of our community, and I fear that that's not going to be the case. Also, with our water problem, we have a water problem here. We know that. Here in Yelm, our water bills are insane. So my question is, how do we expect to be able to take care of a problem so big as homelessness when we can't even take care of a problem as big as our water bills? Were you going to answer that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. Water prices are high. That's not what the task force here is tasked with. Again, You can check my voting record, but I'm I pay the same water. You know, I pay $130 a month, and that's on the cheaper end, I think, of most people around here. But this is totally separate in terms of how we finance it. This would come from the general budget versus our utilities budget. So it is separate. But I get what you're saying. Taxes, yeah.
So with
I get it.
our general budget, then we'll have to take money from our kids, from our community, in order to be able to pay for this, right? Otherwise, we're affecting the homeowners and business owners to be able to pay more.
Not necessarily. It depends on it depends on how the task force makes their recommendation. Again, we could be proposing nothing, and then your tax dollars would stay zero.
Right.
So it wouldn't be impacted at all. So we have no idea what the task force is going to say. This feedback is important because we get to hear from you guys. We're not making a decision tonight. We're going to be talking about it. We're going to be listening about it, and we'll come back in a month. We'll talk about it. It'll be a public open meeting again, just like tonight. So you guys, there'll be no closed door discussions. So everyone will see what we're discussing here. But we're hearing you loud and clear. So I get it.
Okay. Thank you.
Is it on? All right. My name is Jamie Hill. I've lived in Yelm for about 13 years. And I first just want to say you guys have your work cut out for you and you're brave souls. And I also want to commend everybody here for speaking up. I have mixed feelings. And the reason for that is I love this town and I've seen it taking a turn for the worst. When I moved here, my kids were small and I used to run every single day on the Yelm to Nino Trail. Rain or shine, didn't matter if it was raining or if it was dark. I haven't ran on that trail in about 5 years. And the reason for that is I got down to Rainier at the trellis and got chased. And now we know what that trail is like. My daughter thankfully is now a high schooler, but last year she was in the 8th grade at Ridgeline, and I didn't even want her walking across the street. But that wasn't my main purpose for coming up here. I spent 5 years at the city of Tacoma working with the homelessness. I managed the general fund dollars that that was distributed amongst providers. So we had applications come in through service providers to serve the homelessness. It was taxpayer dollars, of course. There was also mental health dollars, but we were a department. Obviously, we are not the city of Tacoma. It's a different scenario. We are a small community. I just want to reiterate, our little town cannot handle this at all. However, what I need to say is we still have a homeless issue, but we're dealing with human beings. We're dealing with human beings. They deserve to live. Regardless of whether or not they have drug issues, whether or not they choose to be homeless, there are chronically homeless individuals who are addicted to drugs. That's a fact. There are people who just choose to live off the grid. They just don't want to live like we want to live. There are people that are criminals. There are chomos out there. It is what it is. However, we cannot choose to do nothing because it's not going to magically just go away, ever. And it's not just a Yelm problem. It's not an Olympia problem. It's not a Seattle problem. It's not a Tacoma problem. This is a regional problem. It's a national problem. It's everywhere. Everybody is dealing with this issue. The capacity of the issue is just different, and it's new to us because it's our beloved town that now we're seeing it. It's visible everywhere. I've driven around this area to try to see where it's at and to really just kind of get the gauge of the capacity of where it's at. I heard the timer, so I'll shut up. Anyways, that's it. I could go on forever. I just wanted to kind of say whatever I said. Thank you.
Morning. One suggestion, I'm Larry Hansen. I'm a longtime resident in Yelm. I probably know a lot of you people or have had interactions with you. I'm here tonight to I've got lots of, so if I'm all over, I've got lots of questions. One of them would be, you might want to start the meeting a little bit later, because if you're working, it's hard to get here at 5:30. I don't work, but it's still, I'm just thinking of the other people out in the audience. You might get more of a cross section of participants. I'm here as, I love Yelm. And I'm here as a concerned citizen. And there's lots of things that we have here in Yelm already in place. I'm a member of the Yelm Rotary Club. Matter of fact, I'm the president of the Rotary Club. We just finished our summer feeding program where we give out, it's in conjunction with the homeless backpacks. They do it once a week. We do it every week for 10 weeks here. It probably cost us with around $20,000. We give out about right around 230 bags of food a week. And the support from the community is great. Thank you. But I wanted to talk more. I live out in the urban growth area, so I'm not affected by everything going in town here. But I live down on Railway and Canal, and we had a big homeless meth, whatever you want to call it, village down there. It took the county years to get them out of there. Even though they would call them squatters, I call them trespassers. If they don't own the property and you come on the property and you don't own it, you're a trespasser. You can call it what you want, you're a trespasser. To me, it doesn't make sense if I pay taxes on this property and somebody comes on there and says, I'm living, you can't kick me off, I've got rights. You don't have rights with me. I go to the law enforcement. If they can't do their job, then something's wrong. And so I don't know how you deal with it here in Yelm, but we have in my past, I was a code enforcement officer in Yelm. I know you. And we have all of these codes and all of these things we can enforce. It's about the enforcement. It's about whether you have somebody on the council or your boss is going to stand behind you when you see these drug-addicted people out in the street doing whatever they do, and we have these codes. If I'm a normal person, if I pulled my pants down and defecated on the street, they would haul me to jail. They wouldn't say, oh, sorry, you're drug addicted. Anyway, I'm way off task. I got way off task. Showers and the bathrooms are down at the, I don't know what they call it now. I'm a young, old person. They called it UCBO when I was here. The Rotary Club, along with the Gates Foundation, they have a house down there. We added on a room for people to come and take showers and do laundry. And I think it's still there. The building is still there and stuff. They might have, well, I think they closed that part down because the people were taking, abusing it, taking the money they'd give them for their laundry and taking it to Walmart or taking the soap and trying to cash it in. So,
Yeah,
the abusers have taken over what was there for a good reason.
I don't believe it's open to the public anymore for those showers and laundry services, just for anyone that wants to come
Right.
in. But
Well, the reason it's not open is because people abuse it. That's the bottom line. Anyway, I wanted to talk
final
more.
thoughts.
Pardon me?
Just a final thought, sir.
What?
Final thought, sir. Time's
Final
up.
thought. Well, I have so many random thoughts. First, I'd just like to thank everybody from the community that came out and supported the Rotary Club of Yelm for all of the backpacks and all of the people. We had over 100 people there. We packed every Sunday, and I'd just like to say thank you.
Hi, my name is Tony, and I've lived here for about 20 years, okay? Now, we had a drug house on my street, and through the diligence of the city council and the Yelm Police Department, it probably took us 3 years to get rid of it, 3 to 4 years, because everybody has guidelines to follow. They can't just evict, even though everybody knew that's what should be done. It just took us a long time. So you've got to understand that this is an awful slippery slope. By inviting the homeless, the druggies into town, we should make this a very unpopular place for them to be. That would be my thoughts. So, I mean, life is all about choices and consequences. Most of us have made the choice to go to work every day, so we own a house or buying a house or living in the community and paying our taxes. And, you know, if it's a little bit more tax money to have a better law enforcement, not better, but more of them, I should say that. They did a great job of getting rid of the house on our street, and it still sits there boarded up. And what do you think that does to our property values that are, you know, we're right next to it. Well, we're not right next to it, we're down the street from it, but you know what I'm talking about. It's a cul-de-sac, so it's not a large area. You go by there and it's like, what's that house? That's the first thing everybody wants to know. And, you know, like I said, the Yelm Police Department did a great job of getting rid of it. It just takes time. They lived in that house with no water, no power for, you're saying 5 years, yeah. Okay, so around 5 years, no water, no power, no nothing. When they got evicted, one of them lived in the driveway for another month or two. I mean, where does it end? You know, I think we need to make this an unpopular place for them to be. That's what I think. So.
My name is Bob Coral. I've lived in Yelm for 20 years. I grew up in New York City and spent most of my life in Philadelphia. If you think that this is a good idea, let me just tell you, find a new idea. Because what's going to happen is this is going to become Mecca to the bums and the homeless. I don't care what their excuse is, don't reward them for being bums and homeless. If you want to strengthen something, strengthen the codes. Make it easier for the law enforcement to deal with this problem than trying to say, oh, let's just welcome them in here, because you'll never get rid of them. If you think it's hard to get them out of one property, wait till they're all over the place. So my final thought is, please find a new idea.
All right, my name's Josh Crossman. I'm a lifetime resident of the Yelm area, so I've been here quite a few years. So first of all, thank you, Joe and Molly, for putting this together. A lot of work, a lot of time invested. Appreciate that. And I agree with you, Molly. It's good to look at all the options, all the ideas. It doesn't hurt, even if ones you disagree with. So thank you guys for doing that. And I also want to thank law enforcement and the Yelm City for cleaning out a drug house down our street a couple years ago. That was a big problem. And that took care of the problem just like that, even though it took you guys a while to do it, but thank you. Just a couple of quick notes I just wrote down real quick. We'll never end poverty, we'll never end homelessness. That will always be with us. We can only manage it best we can. And being a resident of Yelm and a business owner and a family man, I believe in tough love. That's how I raise my kids. So it's not a good idea to enable people. It doesn't help. We have shown that. Studies have shown that. It doesn't work. The Park Service enforces it strictly. You can't feed the animals when you go to the park because they become reliant on it. It works the same with people. But I love people. I want to help people, those that want to be helped. I'm not against providing help to those who want it. And so to part of tough love is, you know, you don't work, you don't eat. It's simple as that. I mean, have you been down 702 lately? I travel down 702 a lot. There's a lot of garbage down that road. Ain't nothing wrong with people picking up some trash. I don't care about their feelings if they want to eat. Faith Harvest was in town here, food bank. They had food rotting. They could not process fast enough. And they did not have people come in to get food. It was free. I got food. I didn't need it. But I got it. I'm like, wow, look at all this food here that's rotting. Free for people. And they're no longer in town here, unfortunately. A lot of the proposals that you got on here, if you really look at them, government regulation has made them very expensive and hard to do. So it's kind of, you know, with housing costs, you know, provide housing, low-income housing. The reason housing costs is so expensive is a lot of regulations. You know, we got to go, the Gophers now we got to worry about, and to build a house now compared to 30 years ago is, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. It's not necessarily in material costs. It's all the regulations tied to it. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, as a business owner, there is a labor shortage. There's a major labor shortage because people don't need to work. Everything's provided for them, so why work when you get stuff for free? And also, again, back to government regulation, it's very hard to hire some people that I wouldn't mind hiring, like somebody had said earlier, mentally ill. Well, with government regulations and everything we have to provide, it'd be very, very expensive to do that. Even though, this is a basic job, but happy to give, like the farmer said here, lots of work available. It just makes it very hard.
Final thoughts, sir.
Let's keep needs and wants in perspective. Support the law enforcement. Let's stop the drugs. And if you want a small business representative on the team, I'll volunteer. Thank you.
So before you start, real fast, we're going to cut it off after the last gentleman up there in line. We've already gone over time, so thank you so much. Thanks for your patience for waiting.
If you build it, they will come. And not in a good way. Not in a good way. I agree. We already have homeless people in our community, and that's an issue that needs to be dealt with. And I agree that there are those among them that want and need help, but I think that there are those among them that choose to continue to live a lifestyle that keeps them homeless. It hurts my heart that in order to keep my family safe, I had to install a gate across my driveway. Now, those automatic gates, those are expensive. So ours is a manual gate. You have to actually get out, unlock it, open it, drive through, close it when you get on the other side. We have a daughter that's 19 years old, and she is terrified that one of these people is going to be hiding in the bush next to our driveway when she gets out to unlock it. So I don't make her do that. I'll either leave it unlocked for her, or I'll go down there and unlock the gate for her and stuff like that at night. But I don't think that my daughter should have to feel any type of risk like that. But I'm kind of getting off topic here. Sorry about that. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that if you create these resources that welcome them to our community, we're not going to have a smaller homeless problem. It's not going to get better. If we use the resources that are being talked about for creating things that might welcome or enable them to be in our community, if we use those resources instead for helping the people that want to stay in our community, that want to move past their issue of being homeless, I can support funds to do that, or funds to relocate people who are choosing to continue to be homeless to areas that do welcome that and do provide those resources, those types of enabling resources already. But I don't want that here.
Hello. I've been here around 30 years. One thing I like to say is if you, like you said, you want to build all those houses, half of them don't want to live in a house. I offered them a house. I've offered them a place to live. They don't want to live in a house. I've offered them a job. They don't want to work. Half of your numbers, I think, are kind of skewed. I don't think they're quite right. That homeless camp, I think it's off. I don't think it's right. The homeless camp that was by the high school, I thank the police for cleaning it up so damn fast. I really do. That was great. There's so much crap and junk back there, needles, rubbish. A few bikes, if you guys are missing your bikes, they're back there. I was just there this afternoon. I live by the high school. I had to build a fence around my property and a doggy door so my dogs could come out 24/7 because so many homeless people were wandering through that field around my house Early in the morning, stoned people were walking 6:30 in the morning, stumbling around. I was going to work. I saw this young girl, 17, 20, maybe, stumbling, half dressed, no pants on, bloodied all over, stoned out of her mind. So I have a long history of addiction issues, not myself, but being involved with addiction issues. I went and talked to a lot of these homeless people, offered them help. Say, hey, I got work, man, I can give you some work. You want to work? They don't want to work. Straight up, I say, I got cash, I can give you money. Want to work? They don't want to work. I'm talking to them. So where you from? Oh man, I'm from Kent. I'm from Seattle. I'm from Lacey. I'm from Olympia. Why are you here? Oh, because it's too hot over there. They're pushing us out. The police are not friendly. They're assholes. They're pushing us this way. We don't like it over there. We're coming this way because this church is over here. They'll feed us a lot. Nobody will bother us here in Yelm. We'll just come here. It's easy. It's fine. It's a lot easier. We don't like it here. Well, where are you from? I'm from Maine. A guy's from Maine. Oregon, Montana, Idaho, all over the country. Why are you here? Well, because we heard Seattle was an easy place to live, but now Seattle's pushing us out, so we're coming towards Yelm. Because small towns, they'll leave us alone. They won't bother us. The truth is we truly, truly don't have the resources to help these people. And they really don't want to help people. If this person has been homeless 10 years, this is a lifestyle. This is something they chose and they want to do. If they want help, the resources are there. But the truth is most of these people truly are addicts, and doesn't make them bad people, but they inherently make poor choices. And that's just the way it is. They don't want really our help. They want free shit. And I don't want to pay for that. They want free stuff, and I don't want to give it. I want to give my tax dollars to my police officers, to fixing them the road on my street. I don't want to give them free stuff. I don't want to make this place uncomfortable for them and keep them out.
My name is Deborah Baker, and I've lived in the Yelm area, actually out in Clearwood, since 2002. And I serve on a similar task force to this one. And I'm just going to read you a sentence out of the vision statement for that task force. It's about the homeless. The last sentence says, the goal being not to enable crisis situation, homelessness, but instead to help provide a leg up for those in crisis back into a better place, to help them get into a better circumstance in life. That is the focus of our task force on homelessness, which we want to coordinate with you as well. But I'm up here specifically to talk about a group of homeless in our area that hasn't been discussed tonight. And it relates to item 6 and 7 on your options here. And it does involve more low-income housing. We've been meeting with different people like you and researching. We recently met with Chief Stan, so he reported that there is in the neighborhood of 113 homeless children in Yelm School right now. Now, some of those might be being bussed in because of the McKenna-Venti law, but my guess is that a majority of them live here somewhere. Another hat I wear, I actually help administer a fund that helps folks in crisis. There's a team that I am on, working with 2 different groups right now, but one of them is a gentleman. He works full-time. He's a union worker. He has 3 small children, raising them alone. He's living in his car. He takes the children to daycare in the morning. He picks them up after work at night, and they go back to the car. A similar situation with another family where they're living in the car, going to school. Mom works. Okay. That's why I'm talking about the low-income housing. Because if they had an ability to get back into housing, they could eventually grow themselves out. So there's a story about that. A lady, disabled, homeless, gets into low-income housing that we currently have. And she stayed there for years. She eventually got herself to a place where she could buy her own house. She lives on disability. She was able, because of low-income housing, to get to a place where she could actually buy a house. Today, she lives in her own home. So there's a success story, right? We got them off the street. And so low-income housing has its place, and I think done well. And that's the key. So my encouragement to this committee is to look, I'm glad it's on the list, to look at those two options done well is the key. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'd just like to make a few points which I haven't heard made yet tonight. The first one is, if I trap a raccoon on my property using a have-a-heart trap, there are significant state laws against me relocating that animal anywhere in this state that isn't private property where I have permission. There are fines and there are jail sentences. So I'm hoping, I also saw the information on the internet that Seattle was potentially providing bus passes for homeless people to come to destinations like Yelm. I'm sincerely hoping that somebody has the wherewithal to point out to Seattle that people in Washington do not treat their neighbors that way. That was my first point. My second point is that many people have mentioned other areas in Washington State, like Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia. So far, I haven't heard anyone mention some of the situations with which they're dealing in California, specifically in Los Angeles, with respect to infectious diseases, plague level issues that they're dealing with there. So my last point, which I would like to make, is that this task force, from what I've heard this evening, is here to address a situation with respect to, according to your documentation, which you've provided this evening, somewhere around 32 to 35 people. I believe you have more than that number assembled in this audience tonight. And the majority of what I've heard expressed has been around the safety of the community, whether it's hygiene, people finding needles and feces in their backyard or close to their backyards, whether it has to do with safety, with respect to children being on the streets and being safe, with respect to women being able to use public rights of way and being safe. And that people have, according to what I've been hearing, have been stating very strongly that they would like to see the law enforced, whether it has to do with hygiene, whether it has to do with safety, whether it has to do with criminality. People have been reporting issues of them being burglarized, their neighbors, their business owners whom they know. And I would like to hear from this task force that that is going to be one of the things which you will be addressing, the issues that have been expressed by the community, that what you're addressing is not solely oriented to addressing the homeless population and their needs. I would like to hear that your task group is also intending to address the needs of the community as they've been expressed this evening.
Thank you. How many times have you ever seen this community center filled with this many people? I've never seen it filled this much. We are absolutely listening to the public. That's why we're having this. We're not interrupting anybody in line. We're trying to limit it to 3 minutes so everyone can speak their piece. But we're taking it all in. We're listening 100% to the community. So, go ahead.
Okay, so you've expressed that you're going to have a follow-up meeting in another month?
Yes, ma'am. We're discussing
so
all these.
Will you be responding to the issues of safety and hygiene and criminality, which the
Yes.
residents of this community are
Yes.
expressing their concerns.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Nicole Woolsey, and I have been a resident here since 1988, so most of my life. I've raised 2 children that are now 21 and 23 years old from birth, their whole life in the school system here. So just so you know, I have a history in this town and been a very active resident. I lived in the middle of the city from the time I was 18 until just a couple months ago. I now don't live in this city. But I lived by Fort Stevens most of my children's lives. So just so you know this. I've watched our town grow. I watched my kids play outside after dark. I didn't even know what they were doing half the time. I just knew they were with the neighborhood kids, probably building a fort, riding their bicycles. I also watched in the same neighborhood that I lived, right off of Oak Ridge Court by Fort Stevens. As I started building new houses but didn't have them finished yet, people started living back there that shouldn't be living there. But I'm gonna say a couple of things. One, you gotta call the Yelm Police if you live in city limits. You gotta call the sheriff's office if you live in the county, because they can't do anything if you don't call them. That's one. You need to encourage all of the people who are having an issue with the homeless population. They need to show up and not just post it on Facebook. If you're a registered voter, which you should be, you need to vote for people who can make a change with the laws so that the people you're calling can enforce them. So it is not just this task force. You all have a responsibility, and you are taking that serious. I see we're here. But we have to get other people to make sure that we can line up everything so everything that we decide as a group can actually happen successfully. There are people that are drug addicts and want to live that way, and they need to pick up their cell phone that they have, look in a picture, and see if they're ready to make a choice and make some change. If they don't, we cannot help them. And when you're talking about making it comfortable here, I agree. Do not make it comfortable. Let's talk about what comfortable looks like. I work in all of Thurston County. Has anybody driven down Wheeler Street in Olympia? I have. Do you want to know what the homeless camp says there on their front door that they created? Keep out. That's what comfort looks like. You want to know what else it looks like? Tent City in downtown Olympia. Anybody walk down there lately? I did last week. I almost got kicked in the head by somebody who was high on drugs, karate fighting a ghost. I got asked to give somebody money, and when I said no, he insisted he knew I had money because he saw it in my wallet. Okay, that is what comfort starts looking like. We cannot make it comfortable, but you know what? Look on your sheet of paper, and if you don't have it, please make it really easy accessible. Look on it, go home, read it, really think about what these look like, number 1 through 19. Think about what it looks like. You need to email and follow up, and you can't just sit here tonight. You got to talk about it after. You need to really think of reality looks like, because just saying, get out of our city, we know that won't happen. Be realistic. But it really starts with your vote, your voice, and showing up. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's James Bean. I'm a 8-year veteran. Been here about 1.5 years in the city of Yelm, in the state for about 6. Sorry, too far away. That better? Okay. If I can hear myself, y'all can hear me. Cool. So I don't want to take the whole 3 minutes. I just wanted to bring up, I wasn't going to mention it, but the low-income housing thing, I think it's a terrible idea. Just what happens when it doesn't work? What happens when it attracts more? We just take it down and waste all that money? I don't like that idea, personally. The next thing I wanted to bring up, sorry, I got far away again. Next thing I wanted to bring up, the property just outside of the Tahoma Meadows, between that neighborhood and the high school. It's got like a blue sign. I don't remember exactly who owned it. I see it every day. There is a trail starting at the sidewalk that goes around. I haven't personally been in there, but I know I've seen, you probably have, you're pointing at me now. There are homeless people living in that property, trespassing. And whoever brought it up earlier, trespassing, not squatting, whoever brought up squatting, you know, let's just call it trespassing with that. So that, I know there's been multiple calls to the police. I know that gets addressed pretty often. Kind of hard to keep them from coming back if they don't get calls. So on that point too. There was a more specific issue that I wanted to bring up that actually brought me to this line, because I wasn't going to say anything tonight. I was just going to listen and see what people were saying. There was a time, I want to say it was a few months after I moved in, so middle last year maybe. I go to the gym, or I did over at Fit Stop. I've moved, but the Fit Stop by the Walmart down there. I was driving in the direction, driving east. So the gym was on my left, and then just past that Walmart, I saw a dark figure run across the road. It was about 5, 6 in the morning, sometime early. They, and I know you probably recognize me at this point. You were the one that responded to the call, that's all. You were. Anyway, the dark figure darted across the road. I figured out quickly it was a person, and they laid down in the entrance to the Fit Stop gym and started flailing their arms and looking right at me. They were feet first toward my Jeep as I was turning into the gym. I don't know why. It seemed like they were trying to get run over. I did call the police in this instance after I didn't run her over. Don't know where she went. I waited, and then you showed up. After a conversation, you mentioned to me there was a substitute teacher who you guys had brought in somewhere near 5 times. And I was just curious, and I wanted to provide you the opportunity to explain a little bit of the process of why, because not everybody understands. And I know I have, my wife's in military police. I had a friend I grew up with who was Henry County Police down in Georgia for a couple of years. So I know the stories, I know the complications. I was in the Army. I know that there are blocks and things you have to get past to get things done. And sometimes you can't. So I wanted to provide that opportunity to you to say, hey, listen, this is some of the roadblocks we have with keeping people like this off the street. If you wanted to, you know. I don't know what happened with that story. I never met after that situation, but
I'm not sure if she. Do you want to go ahead and tell her?
If you could, just maybe a quick, this is what ended up happening, and maybe an opportunity to provide
This is what ended up
answers.
happening. Eventually, she went back to her family in Arizona and was provided the treatment from her family that she was so in need of.
That's good.
Yes.
I like it.
But it took a while to get her there.
I'd imagine. So it's definitely a process then, and it doesn't just happen overnight.
Correct.
But that is good that she ended up, getting the help she needed. But let's point out the help wasn't here, provided by taxpayer money in a government program.
No, her family actually rescued her.
That comes down to that too.
Yes.
So that's it.
Hello, my name is Jay Cochran. I retired from the military 2 years ago, and I bought my house here in 2009. But my wife's from here. She's lived here all her life. I just wanted to bring up something that was said earlier. I was sitting in the back, and it was kind of hard for me to hear, but I believe someone up here said earlier that 60% of Americans are have less than $1,000 savings in the bank, and also that they're a paycheck away from being homeless. Well, that to me is the exact reason why we should keep this. Our hard-earned money shouldn't go toward helping the homeless any more than it has to. If you look around, more than half of this room, if we're really close to that close to being homeless, we shouldn't have to put our money towards them.
Joe, I'm just going to say a couple things.
No more speakers, sir.
Right on. So first off, I want to say to everybody, thank you all for being here. And it's not my job to say thank you, but what I want to say is thank you anyway, because homeless is a huge topic in Thurston County itself. And to be on a board, to volunteer to be on a board, or maybe some of you voluntold. But anyway, what I want to say is what an awesome task that you have. And by the show of the people who are here, how much they love their city, how much they care about it. And I know that Stacy was asked some tough questions in the beginning, and she says she's not a politician. On the side, she really is. But what I would say is that the best part that Yelm has going for it that Thurston County deputy does not is you have city ordinances. And enforcing city ordinances does make it difficult to do a lot of things that you all are talking about today. And it's up to you all, maybe you watching the board make the decisions, but it is also up to the city council to decide whether or not they are going to enforce the ordinances. Now, I'm not suggesting that we criminalize. And so in the city of Olympia and city of Lacey, they're all trying to figure this same thing out. The unfortunate thing that they did not do that this city's doing is they're deciding that we better do something now. And we need to involve the citizens of the city. Lacey has not, and neither has Olympia. And just a little heads up is last year, the legislature did try to pass legislation about where law enforcement would not be able to speak to people who are homeless because it would be considered harassment. And those are some things that are trying to be passed in the legislation, and I know that they're going to be bringing it up again. And they're also now, if you really want to look in it, you can look up Martin versus Boise. It is in regards to homelessness, and it talks about whether or not you can prevent people from camping, or if they're already camping, that you're not allowed to remove them at this time. So my suggestion is this city does not allow camping. And if you start allowing the camping, you have to allow it to occur until it's resolved in the Supreme Court, which will probably be a little while. But what I do want to say is that we have a large amount of homelessness in Thurston County, and I think they total up just over 800 plus. And I get to sit on a lot of committees about how we work with it. There are grants out there. There are monies out there that assist in how to do homeless treatment and what we need to work on. The other thing that I found is that in Thurston County Department of Health, there's a list of shelters and also nonprofit organizations and facilities that help all homeless people. Meaning whether you're mentally ill, can you get the mental health treatment? Yes. If you are a drug abuser, can you get some help? Yes. If you need a place to live, there's a place for that. So there are resources out there. It's in Thurston County that with the Department of Health, and there are cities that also are doing it because they have the funding for it. My suggestion is that if you really are interested in, and I know this board will look into the city of Olympia, the city of Lacey, and how they're dealing with it. And what I will tell you is that they're not doing a very good job dealing with it. And the reason why is because they're not enforcing their ordinances and they're not holding people accountable for their actions. So just a couple other things and then my timer will be up. But what I do want to say is
Pause
that
the timer.
when it's already been mentioned many times over that we all hold ourselves accountable. When we go out in the streets, when we hold our children accountable, when we go out there, are we okay to leave our children going into parks with needles and feces and a lot of other things that we're seeing in the city of Olympia and the city of Lacey? It's not fair to the people who work hard every day to make this a better community. And what we're seeing with all our volunteer organizations and what we're doing for the people in need. And what I want to say last, Joe, is that you are all an awesome group, and I just want to say thank you for all wanting to be involved in this issue, because it's all of our problem, not just theirs. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. And thank you to this whole community for coming out tonight. This is the most packed I've ever seen this place. So thank you so much for caring about this issue. Thank you for making your voice heard you loud and clear. The task force heard you loud and clear. Thank you, task force members, for spending your time up here listening. We are going to move back the time, before you all take off, we are going to move back the time to our next meeting to 6:30 instead of 5:30. Try to get more people in here. So we heard you. And we'll get some more chairs. One last thing about a potential town hall that Molly's going to be talking about real fast.
So this ties in with what Sheriff Snazza was just saying. We will be having a town hall, another town hall on this issue on October 9th. We will have DSHS, Washington State DSHS, and the Thurston County coordinators here to talk to you guys, to show what the state is doing and what Thurston County is doing, so that Yelm knows exactly what's going on and what things are available and being done. So show up on October 9th, time to be determined, but it looks like it's probably going to be 6:30, 7 o'clock, depending on, yeah, it would be here. Yeah, here at the community center. No, this is a town hall meeting. The follow-up meeting is going to be October 15th. Okay, so there's two meetings coming up. Okay, guys? Thank you all so much for coming. It was really valuable to get everybody's input. We really appreciate it.